Picture two guys. Guy 1 pulls up to a valet stand in a Lamborghini, Rolex catching the light, head to toe in logos you can spot from across the parking lot. Guy 2 drives a 5-year-old Toyota Camry. Same watch he's had for a decade, the kind you wouldn't look at twice. Jeans from a store you've actually heard of. Here's the twist. Guy 2 has 11 times the net worth of Guy 1. That's not a guess. That's the actual math behind almost every serious study on American millionaires ever done. And once you understand why that gap exists, you're going to start seeing it everywhere. Your neighborhood, your job, maybe your own family. This isn't really a story about taste or humility. It's a story about a trap, one that catches almost everyone who gets close to real money. The tiny percentage who avoid it do it on purpose. Let's get into it. First, we need to deal with a lie you've been told your whole life, mostly by accident. You were trained by movies, by Instagram, by every ad you've ever seen, to read wealth off a person's surface. Nice car equals rich. Designer bag equals rich. Big house equals rich. It's such a deep assumption that most people never question it. But that equation was never true. It's just the easiest lie to sell because it's the easiest lie to buy. Anybody can finance a BMW on a $40,000 salary. A lease is not a bank statement. A designer bag goes on a credit card at 19% interest. A big house with 3% down tells you a bank was willing to bet on this person's future income, which is a very different thing from this person already having money. So what you're actually looking at when someone looks rich is usually not wealth, it's debt wearing a costume. Future income borrowed against, worn on the outside like a coat. And the people selling you that costume know exactly what they're doing. The entire luxury industry, the entire influencer economy runs on convincing you that the appearance of wealth and the possession of wealth are the same purchase. They're not. In a lot of cases, they're opposites, because every dollar that goes toward looking rich is a dollar that didn't go toward becoming rich. That's not a moral judgment, that's arithmetic. Money can only go one direction at a time. This isn't just a theory. There's actual research on this, and it's been consistent for decades. The most famous version comes from a study of American millionaires that found something researchers didn't expect. They assumed they'd find millionaires clustered in wealthy zip codes, driving new luxury cars. Instead, they found the opposite, over and over. The average self-made millionaire drove a used vehicle. Most had never bought a brand new car in their life. A huge share lived in the same modest house for decades. But because they'd done the math and realized upgrading was a terrible trade. Meanwhile, in the same income brackets, there were people earning millionaire-level salaries with a net worth close to zero. Doctors, lawyers, people with impressive titles and impressive homes, and almost nothing in the bank once you subtracted what they owed. The researchers split people into two categories that had nothing to do with income, only behavior. Underaccumulators, high earners who converted almost all of that income into visible stuff. Prodigious accumulators, people often earning far less, who quietly converted income into assets instead. Same paycheck, opposite outcome. The only variable that mattered was where the money went the moment it hit the account. Income and wealth are not the same thing. Income is water flowing into a bucket. Wealth is what's sitting in the bucket after the leaks. Rich-looking people often have a fire hose of income and a bucket full of holes. Quiet millionaires have a garden hose and no holes at all. Okay, so far this might sound like a fairly obvious point. Spend less, save more. But here's where it gets more interesting, because there's a second layer most people never think about. It's not just that visible spending competes with wealth building. Visible wealth actively invites attacks on the wealth you already have. Looking rich doesn't just cost you money going out, it costs you money coming for you. Think about what happens the moment people believe you have money. Family starts asking for loans that never get paid back. Salespeople stop giving you their best price because you've signaled you can afford the worst one. Contractors quote you higher. In any negotiation, a car, a house, a settlement, the other side adjusts their number the second they clock the watch or the car in the driveway. Economists have a name for a version of this: asymmetric information. The moment you signal wealth, you hand the other side information they use against you. You've shown your hand before the negotiation even starts. It goes further than money, too. Visible wealth attracts people drawn to the appearance rather than to you. It creates targets for scams, for lawsuits, for theft. People who study families that stay wealthy across generations will tell you the ones that last are almost paranoid about staying invisible because they've watched what happens to the ones that don't. So here's the real mechanism this video is actually about. Looking rich isn't neutral, it's actively corrosive in two directions at once. It drains money going out, and it invites forces that drain what's left. Spend to look rich, and you're simultaneously slowing down how fast you build wealth and speeding up how fast the world tries to take it from you. Once you see that double bind, the quiet millionaire in the Camry stops looking cheap. He starts looking like someone who figured out the game everyone else is losing without realizing they're even playing it. Now let's talk about where all that unspent money actually goes, because this is the part that turns frugal into wealthy. Say two people make the exact same income. One spends the difference on looking successful. The other invests it, quietly, for decades. The gap between them doesn't grow in a straight line. It grows on a curve because invested money makes more money. And that new money makes more money too. This is compounding, and it's invisible for a long time. And then suddenly it isn't. For the first 5, even 10 years, the two people might not look that different. One just has a nicer car. But by year 20 or 30, the gap isn't 20%. It can be 5 times, 10 times, the 11 times the study found, because compounding doesn't care how things look. It only cares about time and consistency. Here's the cruel irony. The visible spending pays off on a completely different schedule than the payoff. Buying the car gives you a reaction today. Investing the same money gives you nothing today. No reaction, no applause, just something boring and silent that nobody can see. The entire game rewards the wrong behavior in the short term, and only rewards the right behavior after most people have already switched sides. That's the actual reason the trap works on smart, disciplined people. You're fighting a timing mismatch between when the cost lands and when the reward shows up. The people who end up quietly wealthy made peace with looking for years like they were falling behind, while actually pulling ahead the whole time below the surface. So let's flip the question, because I think we've been asking it wrong. It's not why don't millionaires look rich? The more accurate question is, what does the money actually buy, if not the appearance of wealth? Once you look at how people who stay wealthy for decades, across generations actually spend, a different picture shows up. They spend enormous amounts of money, just not on things you can see from the street. They spend on time, buying back hours through help, not working a job they hate. They spend on optionality, the ability to walk away from a bad deal, a bad boss, a bad marriage, without a financial gun to their head. They spend on health, on their kids' education, on assets that quietly throw off more money every year without them lifting a finger. None of that photographs well. You can't post optionality on Instagram. The real prize is invisible by design, and that's the whole point. The things that actually make your life better tend to be private. The things that make your life look better tend to be public. Those are two different shopping lists, and almost everyone is accidentally shopping from the wrong one. That's the whole secret, if you can even call it one. It was never hidden. It's sitting in a used Camry in a driveway you drove past without noticing. Now here's why I actually wanted to make this video, beyond the interesting stat. This isn't really about millionaires. It's a pattern running in your life right now, whether you have a lot of money or very little. Every day you're choosing between two invisible piles, the pile that gets seen and the pile that gets built. The pressure, from ads, from social media, from wanting to belong, is almost always pushing you toward the pile that gets seen. The uncomfortable question isn't how do I get rich? It's simpler and harder. What am I actually buying right now? The feeling of having arrived, or the thing that would actually get me there? Those two purchases rarely come out of the same dollar. You don't have to drive a beat-up car for 20 years to get this. The lesson is just to notice the trade the next time you're about to make it. To ask quietly, is this dollar going toward looking like I made it, or actually making it? The ones who do, quietly for years no one's watching, are the ones driving the Camry next to the Lamborghini, and in 20 years, the math already tells us which one wins. If this shifted how you think about money even a little, that's why I made it. Let me know in the comments, would you rather look rich now, or actually be rich later? I read every one,